So tonight, one of the most controversial topic in the church today is money. And tonight, my topic is about money and success. So, right. So when we think about money and when we think about success, these are topics that sometime in the church can become very controversial, especially with a lot of people looking for self-gain and using the gospel to do so.
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing I want to be clear on, I want to state is that there is no correlation between success or happiness and having money. And a lot of times we think or we behave like, you know what, if I have money, I might be happier. If I was more successful, it would mean that I have more money in the bank. And that's how the world program us. And that's how a lot of times Christians are get tied up and get caught when the so-called preacher or so-called prophet come and say, well, you know what, do this and you will get X amount of dollars, or do this and you will see this in your bank account, and people is get catch with these things. Because we all want some level of success, some level of happiness, some level of some satisfaction. And we think that money could give it to us. But some of the most broken people emotionally think are rich people. So therefore, money cannot give you success or give you happiness. And some of the happiest people that you would meet are poor people. And I would like to think that they are successful in their own right. Just some facts, there are over 2,000, just about 2,000 verses in the Bible that actually talk about money. And the word money or anything of that sort is mentioned about 800 times. So that's to show it's an important topic. But because of the level of corruption that comes with this topic, that's why a lot of people shy away from. And the people who actually talk it, most of them talk it for self-gain. But it is an important topic, and it is a topic that we should, as Christians, engage and talk about and have conversations and know about. Okay, I want to still on this slide. Right. So what is money? A lot of times we think that money is, well, that $5, that $10 in your pocket, but no. Money is just a unit that we could use to do exchange, exchange of value, that is. Some example of money, it could be land, it could be gold, silver, fiat currency, that's the banknotes, cryptocurrency, bonds, stock, shares. All these things are money. All these things are used for transactions on a daily basis. And what is success? Success is a state of fulfillment. Let me get this to one, right? Because it's blocking, right? Where someone can feel a sense of accomplishment whilst being free from any burdens. So that is true success, where you actually feel accomplished and you have nothing burdening you. Because sometimes, you know, you go to school, you get a master's degree, and you say, yes, I have accomplished this task, but you have a bank account there waiting to just pay how much student loans and so forth. So while you have some level, you don't have full success because you still have something burdening you or holding you back. And tonight's scripture is taken from John, and to make life easy for a clearer depiction, I also would like to use a video for it, right? So it's John 6, verse 5 to 13.
After this, Jesus went across Lake Galilee, or Lake Tiberias, as it is also called. A large crowd followed him because they had seen his miracles of healing the sick. Jesus went up a hill and sat down with his disciples. The time for the Passover festival was near. Jesus looked around and saw that a large crowd was coming to him.
Where can we buy enough food to feed all these people?
He said this to test Philip. Actually, he already knew what he would do.
For everyone to have even a little, it would take more than 200 silver coins to buy enough bread.
Another one of his disciples, Andrew, who was Simon Peter's brother, said,
There is a boy here who has 5 loaves of barley bread and 2 fish. But they will certainly not be enough for all these people.
Make the people sit down.
There was a lot of grass there, so all the people sat down. There were about 5,000 men. Jesus took the bread, gave thanks to God, and distributed to the people who were sitting there.
Right, again, that look at as the disciples come to Jesus, right, so take note of that and all.
He did the same with the fish.
Oh, you can't move. No. You're done. No, you're done. Stick. You playing step.
And they all had as much as they wanted. When they were all full, he said to his disciples,
Gather the pieces left over. Let us not waste a bit.
So they gathered them all and filled 12 baskets with the pieces left over from the 5 barley loaves which the people had eaten.
Right, so this is actually a familiar scripture for most of us. We will learn it in Sunday school, or we must have heard somebody talk about it before, where Jesus take the bread and the fish and feed 5,000. It even have a song. I don't think I know the song go at this time, but have a song too. So we're going to look at the different aspects of this and compare it into the money and success, right? So the first thing is that we see is Jesus asking Philip, where would we buy bread? And he didn't do it because he wanted to buy bread, but in fact, he was just testing him to see how he would respond. And in our everyday lives, the same thing, God will present situations before us to see what we will do, but he already know what he will do for us. But sometimes he just want to see what we will do. And Philip actually calculated the size of his problem and saw that, you know what, it have all these people here, it would and take the Bible calculated, said that 200 denarii, that's approximately about 6 to 7 months work of a laborer, because back in those days, from 6 in the morning to 6 in the PM, a laborer would get 1 denarii. So you're looking at 200 days work. In $30, I say average about 60 to $100,000 TT to buy bread to feed these people. And he was saying that that wouldn't be enough. So I went through that to check. If you was to buy $60,000 worth of bread, that's like 6,000 quarter bread, because quarter bread is like $10. And he's saying that that wasn't enough to feed people. So that's, you see, he went in and he calculated the whole problem and did not think he just saw the problem and get bombarded by it. And plenty of time that has happened to us. We get bombarded and we just start to look at the problem and think like, oh God, this, that, the next. And everything started run inside our head and we don't take time to pause or to think. The next person that had an input was Philip. No, was Andrew, sorry. And Andrew was seeing the method of which God went to use, but he was questioning it because he saw that it was only 5 loaves and 2 fishes. So he saw the solution, but he couldn't comprehend what was going to happen. But what he didn't understand was the 5 loaves plus the fish plus Jesus was the solution. He was only seeing the bread and the fish. He wasn't seeing Jesus in the equation. And sometimes that is happening to us as well. We see that Jesus presents something before us, a situation before us, and we see this thing, we see, well, you know what, I need $10,000 to do this. And we start to panic and we start to think, and Rihanna right here, she would attest to this for our wedding. I remember that kill me that I alone had to do everything, and I went on a find money spree. I just had to find money, and I couldn't find no money. I had to sit down and stay quiet and watch God work it out. So sometimes we just get carried away, but the little things that we have, God could use it and actually do great things if we only invite him in to bond with it and to actually use what we have to give us some level of success in whatever we're doing. And we could see this in Moses. Moses went from being the prince of Egypt to a shepherd. And when he went before God in the form of the burning bush, God asked him what he had in his hand, and he said a rod. And God used that same rod to set Egypt free in the form that he parted the Red Sea, and he's supposed to talk to the rock, but he smiled the rock. So, but I believe that the reason that God had Moses to use that stick is because Moses in his head, at that point, he was just a shepherd. And now going back to the place where he was royalty, he might have wanted to go back, or he would have think about going back to portray something else and not who he was at that point in time. That's why God had to use the rod. So you would have to remain a shepherd. Because think about it, sometimes when some of us, we get fired, we change jobs, things don't work out how we want, but when we see people from the last job, yeah, but things on par, things could not be better, but really and truly deep down, you know, we just put on our show. And I believe that sometimes God wants to use these simple, humbling things to actually do something for us, but we have to actually allow him to partner with us to actually make that level of success in our lives. And it's not us or not the tool, but God using the tool. So moving on, we see that Jesus gave thanks. And when he took the loaves and the fish, he gave thanks. Some out of the gospel say that he gave thanks and he broke the bread. Some say that he gave thanks and he distributed. It's the same thing. It's just that every author wrote according to what they think or how they processed it. But it's the same exact story. So sometimes when we get a solution, we rush to the solution. All the time we didn't have a job, now we got a job. And we want to work Sunday to Sunday without seeing that God provided with this job, and we could actually take time and give to God and give time and give of our substance. But we so caught up with the fact that we didn't have a job, and now we have a job, that we figure to see that you know what? It's Jesus who provide. God provide for us in that instance. And we get carried away and we just go busy about our business. So the next thing after he gave thanks is he distributed. The word here, distributed, was actually in the past continuous tense where he was actively, and if you remember in the video, every disciple come, they get, they go, they get, they come, they go, they get, they come, they go, they get. So he was actively distributing. He was the source of this bread and fish. And I actually put it that he was the abundant source because they got as much as they wanted. It's just not that they get, like Philip was thinking, to give them something to make sure they may starve, but they get until their belly was full. And that's how God has given us. And if we look at 2 Kings, chapter 4, verse 1 to 7, it tells the story of the woman and the oil. So there was this woman in the Bible, her husband just died, and she came to the prophet Elijah, and she was saying to him that, you know what, things hard, and your servant, meaning her husband, was a man of God and thing, and he borrowed money, and now that I can't pay, I don't know what to do. And Elijah asked her, what do you want me to do? What do you have in your house? And she said that all she had was a small pot of oil, and I have a picture here on the screen for those of us who could actually see it. It's just about the size of a vial of oil, like, you know, those fancy bottle of olive oil that we have now, around that size. From looking at the translation of the text, that's about the most accurate description of the vessel that we could come to. And the prophet tell her to go and borrow, but he didn't tell her to go and just borrow tuna. He tells you to go and borrow from all the neighbors. Go by the neighbor, you talk to the neighbor, you don't talk to, go by everybody and borrow vessels, and not a few, but borrow as much as you could get. And when she do that, he tells she to go inside she house and close the doors and pour from her little bottle into the big jars. What would be considered a jar in those days would be like one of those plastic drums around that size. So this little bottle, tell her pour and full a drum. And she filled until she had no more. And only when she finished full all the jars, all the vessels, then the oil stopped flow from the bottle. And when that happened, she went back. And this was important to me. She actually went back to the prophet, or went back to the man of God. And he gave her further instructions, because, and her going back is very significant. Because sometimes, you know, we get the blessing and we're happy. But she went back and hear what the prophet tell her to do: go and sell the oil and pay your debt. But not only to pay your debt, but to live on the rest of money. So God didn't just provide for she debt, she just wanted to cover she expenses to make sure that these men who they were owing money, they'll come and take her son. That was her problem. That was all that she was seeing, but God actually worked so far to the point that she don't have to worry about money again. Based on this, I would say for the rest of her life. So moving on, well, we're moving back to John. So we see that the disciples, after distributing, they came back to Jesus, and the same thing, the lady came back to the prophet. So we have to, you know, when we get and we go, we have to come back. But we're not coming back empty-handed, we're coming back with something. Because if we come back empty-handed and go and come and go and come, that's a parasitic relationship. But if you have a symbiotic relationship, they give, you get, they give, you get. And that's the kind of relationship God wants with us. You don't want to, you know, I don't think any one of us, no, please don't take it the wrong way. It's just a word I used to describe, and I never call nobody a parasite, right? So please don't take that. It's just You know, that's the correct term for it. When heaven blesses us, we need to protect whatever we get and not leave it out in the world just for the world to eat it away. And the same comes for when we have money or when we get money. We're supposed to return to the source, return and get refilled. And that's where tithing, the importance of tithing come in. And I know that tithing is another controversial topic because the man in the bar would say that by them preacher, them more 10%, them living off of me, but the barman getting 100% and they're okay with that. And then the different people would say different things. And I could give a whole list of scenarios. But at the end of the day, the Bible talk about tithing, and for me personally, I did an in-depth study going back all the way back to the original text and all of that for tithing. And tithing was for those who believed that they had. So tithing wasn't for everybody, you know. Tithing was for those that who believed that they had. So long as you believe you have, you tithe. So if you don't believe you have, you won't tithe. And then guess what happens? You wouldn't have, because you would always have need for something. But for those who believe they have, they tithe. And that's why that's something I don't play with it. I have no question in my mind concerning that. And we all know the scripture for that, Malachi 3:10, where God said to bring you into the storehouse and that it may have food in his house and to test him and to try him. Actually, God asking you to test him. How much all it is, or how much of us, or if I, or if you ask yourself, would you ask God to try you? But this is God asking you to try him. Or you test me and see if I will open the floodgates of heaven. If you have a guarantee like that, you don't need another guarantee in life. So this is just another point, you know, how you see God or how you see the Lord, so you will treat your money with respect to him. And to look at this aspect or look at this point, we at Matthew 19, well, that whole story there about the talent, but we're looking solely or mainly right now at the third servant, which is 21 to 23. And he actually was telling the master that I know you're a hard man. So he, in his mind, created that this is who I'm dealing with. And because this is who I'm dealing with, I will do this. And we see that he did not do anything with the money, but he buried it. He didn't make any kind of moves. He didn't make any investments. He didn't do anything. And well, this translation that I have up is the NIV, but the King James will sound more like white talking, right? So he didn't do anything, and that's based on the fact that that's how he saw his master. He saw his master as a harsh man, so he treated him as such. Right. God wants us to have, but he never saw the bank. It's taken. All right, I'm good to go now. Right. So he never saw the bank as an option, but however, he never dismissed it. Because here you see the master asked the servant, so why didn't put the money in the deposit? Why didn't put it in the bank? At least you could have do that. So that way when I come, I could get some kind of, I could get 1% interest at least. But at this point, I get back my money. And today we know that inflation is a real thing. So I actually lost value while I gave you my money. So, and that, well, we know that the master himself was angry because of what he was met with. And this is something that we have to look at, because my next point, I have no clue why I came up with this, but then God is good. He actually showed me why I said it. God is an investor. He's not a saver. He don't like the save thing. He don't put it in the bank. He always tell us so. And if you look at what he said in John 3:16, he gave his son freely, that whosoever believe. Now our investment is anything that they got return on. So he made that investment knowing that it's going to come with a return. It's going to come back to him with me and you and Pastor and everybody else on this call, and even the rest of Christians, the rest of believers in the case of the earth today. He knew that he was going to win all of that and more. So he actually made an investment into mankind when he gave Jesus up to come and die on the cross for us. So the story of the talents had two servants before, and those two servants actually was faithful and they were rewarded. Let me see, that's my next slide. Trying to click. Right. So we're looking at the encounter. This is part of the encounter based on Matthew writing. And this is what was said here. 25 verse 3. His Lord said unto him, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler of many things. Enter into the joy of thy Lord. So this was said to the first and second servant because they went out and they multiplied what God gave them and it brought it back in with interest, with some kind of profit. So that's how God actually sees money and see how we should function with money. Not to go bury it in a ground and put it in a clean pan. And I know that people have this idea that long time Indian people used to hide money under the bed and clean pan and things. We're not about our life in this day and age. We're about making smart decisions. So this will actually go for everything else we do in life. But tonight, I just wanted to just touch on the topic of money and success alone. But you can take it and look at it from every aspect in your life and see how it would actually pan out, right? But tonight we see that this here is the whole essence of the topic. Because he was faithful in a few things, he'll make you ruler of many things. And this is how you would actually enjoy what God has for you. When you are faithful in the little things. So you take what little he gives you, you give some tithes, you give some offering, you bless somebody, and you don't look at, well, God, I have grocery to make. I'm not saying go hungry, no. I'm saying if God say to, we have to be able to actually discern and understand and hear that we could hear from God and he could direct us. And you know, he will, I remember that was when last week or week before Rian actually testified that she had like $100 or something and God tell her to give it to somebody, and you know, she get back a few times more. So it's the same thing. It applies to all of us. When we could obey God with little money, he would actually bring that level of success that we don't have a burden hanging over us. But he would make sure that all of our needs are supplied, because at the end of the day, he is the God of the 10,000 cattle on the 10,000 hills. So we have, and you know, if we need, all we have to do, just like how it was, not Philip, Andrew. How Andrew could not see that bread plus fish plus Jesus was the solution. Let us be that wise to see whatsoever we have plus Jesus is the solution.